well, the Aarakocra bring you up to Kir Sabal. I'm going to
Watch
share
where they
with
put
you.
their bankers.
Wah, 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 wah. That was actually. Have you been hanging out with worm food, Vay? I mean, what's going on? That was actually worm foodish, but I liked it. It was
I know,
actually.
I miss worm food. I'm trying to fill in for him.
I do too. But you know what, actually, Vay? That was actually a lot better than worm food. I'm going to be honest with you. His stuff, there was a lot of crickets and stuff that would always kind of be ringing in the background, and there'd be like all this, silence and stuff. So here's the map of Kir Sabal, and there's this beautiful. It looks like a monastery. There's they kind of show you that the elder's house is up top. There is a royal house. There is also some cleansing chambers that they have, and where they kind of look over towards Shen and Darganoth. And then there is the dwellings of where all of the Aarakocra stay. So as you guys get to, I'm going to put a little marker here too. Let's put a. Might as well do another.
It's really bugging me being a map maker as a profession, and that it says 1 square is 5 feet, and there's not one single square on this whole thing.
Well, that's because there's some other maps involved. That's why it's kind of grayed out here. So we'll say you guys are about right here. You guys are actually in the dwellings. And here, these are the dwellings. These are pretty much there. They aren't all identical, but they are pretty similar. And this is where the majority of the population of Aarakocra occupy. This is where they live. And each one of these dwellings has 2 or 3 different levels. There's ladders that connect them. But of course, they can fly. But they are, they've been known to have visitors as well. But there's all kinds of feathers all over the place. There's little, you can kind of, as you walk by, they have their living quarters because there's windows that you can look in, and there's all kinds of things inside. You see, all these little shrines and ornaments that are adorning them, like shells and teeth and scales and little pieces of wood and stuff. So what do you guys want to do? You guys want to see this teacher, this supreme, well, really not the supreme ruler, but this Aarakocra. His name is Ashara.
Yes, I think we should meet with him, and since he's the elder, find out if he knows anything about the soulmonger, what he's heard, what he can tell us.
Yeah.
And being that they're Aarakocra, maybe they can tell us something about why the flying ship is crashed.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, the flying ship over on the western part of the island and towards the center.
Yes, that's the one.
Okay. So you guys head past the cleansing chambers, which are right here. And this is where they basically cleanse themselves, and it's not like a bathhouse bandit type of bathhouse or anything. This is something that where the Aarakocra can actually ritually cleanse themselves before, and as Christy O'Connor and Summer McMack, they're basically escorting you up to where Ashara is. They basically tell you that this is where the Aarakocra ritually cleanse themselves, and this is the building that they do it, and they're supposed to cleanse themselves before going into the monastery. And there's all kinds of offerings and stuff like that, all kinds of little, statuettes and figures and stuff like that. And of course, they tell you that there's a washroom in there as well, and a shrine. Now, next, you pass through the monastery, which, this is basically where the Aarakocra monks live. And you pass through there. It's a very large circular labyrinth. And it also has what you guys have actually seen. Remember that huge floating tree that was in the clouds when you guys were looking off of Orlunga? And you saw this huge tree with a heart. Well, there's that symbol is all over the place inside of this monastery. And there's several rooms. There's like an antechamber. There's a master's quarter for the monks. There's a shrine. There's a prayer hall. There's a refectory, and you guys pass through, and there's all kinds of monks in there. They're chanting and singing and stuff. You get to the royal houses, and this is the building between the monastery and where Ashara lives. It's about right here. And this is basically where the family of Ashara lives. And Christy O'Connor and Summer McMack, they tell you that this is where the children of Ashara, they are. And has a daughter and a son. Very young son, probably about equivalent to about 6 years old, and then the daughter, which will take over for Ashara one day here at Kir Sabal, is close to about 20 years old. And then here is the royal house. This is where Ashara dwells. And actually, this is where all of the business takes, all of the business that takes place here in Kir Sabal as well. And you are, and inside it, here's the quarters. There's a shrine as you guys pass through, and you guys are taken into Ashara's quarters. And of course, you guys wait out into the shrine room until Christy and Summer get back, and they say that Ashara will see you now, and then you are escorted into this chamber with more of these symbols of Ubtao all over the place. That tree and heart that was floating. And you are introduced as you guys go up to an upper floor, that is. And this place is decorated with all kinds of frescoes, frescoes of Ubtao, stuff like that. There's no windows on the upper floor. There's a library. It's basically there's like an outer room before you guys are brought into the chamber, and there's all kinds of books. And these books look old too. And there's a couple of Aarakocras sitting at table reading them and stuff like that. So you guys get ushered into the inner chamber of Ashara, and and in fact this is probably his living quarters, because there's a bed, a nightstand, some books, and there's also a wardrobe box that's holding everyday type of clothing, and actually you see some ceremonial garbs and clothing hanging up in there. So you are introduced to Ashara, and he says, "Well met," and he goes, "What brings you to Kir Sabal? In fact, I heard that you had a traveling companion that stayed with us for a while. Is he in any kind of trouble at all?"
Well, we're not quite sure. He traveled with us for a time, and then one morning we woke up and he just wasn't there. So we're not exactly sure what happened to him. But he did say that we should, if we're ever in the area, we should come by and see this place.
Well, welcome to Kir Sabal. And my name is Ashar, and I'm sorry that your traveling companion disappeared. We haven't seen him since he's left here at Kir Sabal. He just left with no notice. But you could see that we live pretty peaceful, ritualistic lives, and we follow the traditions laid down by our past rulers. And I'm just one in a long line of Aarakocra rulers. But we like to follow the rules. We live very peaceful lives, but we still do trade with other communities. We don't like war. We like to stay out of the affairs of the other warring factions. Are you guys hungry? Do you want something to drink? Christy and Summer can fix you something if you need it. Have you been traveling very long? And what brings you to this isolated island of Choltz anyway?
Well, have you heard of the death curse and the soulmonger?
No, I have not. Can you explain a little bit more? And would you be staying with us as well? Would you like to be our guest for several days? We don't get guests very often, but you're more than welcome to stay. We have some guest houses if you want to put your feet up for a couple of days. I mean, looks like you've been traveling for a little bit. But as for this, but if you stay, we do ask that you spend a few hours a day helping with chores because that's what we all do here. Everybody chips in, and so if you want to say, just spend a couple hours a day helping us with chores, and you may worship your deities in our monastery as well. We're open to that. But as for this soulmonger, I've never heard of this. What can you tell me a little bit more about it?
Well, first of all, this death curse, I'm surprised you haven't heard of it, but maybe you haven't seen too much of it this high up. I'm sure you've seen all the undead and things that just keep dying around this isle.
You know what? Speaking of that, we've actually had a problem with gargoyles as of late. And these gargoyles, they dwell in the cliffs. And sometimes that's the only time that we ever have to defend ourselves are against these gargoyles. But the past couple of months, now that you mention this, we've had several more attacks, more than usual, from these gargoyles. So maybe this soulmonger has something to do with it.
Near as we can tell, the soulmonger, I'm not going to tell her the whole truth, is some sort of evil artifact, but we're not quite sure if it's like actually evil or if it's just being used for evil purposes or what. But somehow it's wrecking this death havoc and wrecking this whole isle and even areas beyond this isle with this death curse.
Well, are you here at Kir Sabal? Do you think we are hiding this death curse? Do you think that we don't have anything to do with this? We're just a peaceful tribe of Aarakocra that mind our own business. Do you actually think that we have something to do with this?
Oh, no.
Is that why you're here?
Not at all. We just thought you might have some information that could give us further insight into this, but it appears that you haven't heard much of this.
And if you want to do insight checks, you can do that as well at any time, just as a reminder. And Ashara says, do you know the location of the soulmonger? Maybe there is something I can do to help aid you. If it's going to help us with this gargoyle problem that we have, I would say that I would be willing to give you a little bit of my knowledge and maybe use a certain ritual on you, and a ritual that we don't use very often around here. And Christy O'Connor and Summer McMack, when they say that, they kind of go, ooh, ah. And, of course, Darganoth and Shen, the whole entire time, these two Aarakocra are like daggers in their eyes, man. They're just staring at you guys the whole entire time, kind of like shuddering and blushing and kind of winking at you and stuff like that as well.
Shen, I think that one likes you.
So
they're so gonna kill me. So do you know the location of this death curse? This soulmonger,
yes,
as you said?
We know the general location. It's apparently in some ancient city called Omu, and we do know where it is, but we wisely are seeking out as much information as possible before we venture there.
And he has a puzzled look on his face, but continue on.
Yeah, we just wanted to... We have very vague information on how to go about ending this death curse and everything that's involved with it. So on the way there, we've been stopping by areas and trying to certain areas, like yours in particular here, to see if you could give us any insight into what we might do, or at least give what aid you can.
And like I said, Ashara has a puzzled look on his face, and he says, you mentioned Omu. Omu was a civilization that we dwelled at one point. It was a beautiful place. It was a place where all of the races could live at one point. And then the Yuan-Ti, they moved in, the serpent folk, and they destroyed it. They ran everybody away and killed most of the inhabitants there. And that was many, many, many generations ago. And that's why us, the Aarakocra, we took to the skies to take advantage of the tools that we have at our wings, and that's why we created Kir Sabal, is because we were ran out of Omu at one point, many, many, many years ago. But I would be willing to help you for sure. I mean, if Omu has something to do with this soulmonger, with this death cursed, I will perform a ritual, a very rare ritual that we have, and it is called the Dance of the Seven Wings. And this will last you for 3 days. And this is going to give you the ability to fly. You will have wings for 3 days. But there is a very rare component that I would need, and that would be a petal from a black orchid. Just one petal. But if you could find a black orchid, I would be more than happy to perform this ritual for you. I don't know how much time you have, but I could do this for you. I could give all of you wings for 3 days, and you can fly. You can fly to your heart's content. But just make sure, at the end of that 3rd day, make sure you're not in the air. Make sure you're on the ground, because you'll take fall damage at 10d6 per 10 feet. Speaking out of character.
Black Darganeth, is that what that thing you got is?
So, I like to do everything with flair. I'll walk over towards Christy O'Connor,
Sure. Mm-hmm.
and with a sleight of hand, trying not to be seen at all, I'll reach into my bag and pluck a petal from the black orchid and act like I'm pulling it from behind her ear.
Nice. Oh, very nice. I like that.
Sweet moves, dude.
I like that, and so does Ashara. Ashara likes that as well. And he actually looks over towards you and he says, it seems like my daughter has taken to you. He says, this is the princess of Kir Sabal. And he says, actually, these
You
are
took
both
in a
my
birdcage.
daughters. Yeah, we guys just get a bird cage. Yeah, exactly. Nice. So he actually says that both of these are his daughters, and then he has a son as well. And then she takes the petal from the orchid over to her father, and he says, I can perform this ritual anytime that you need it done. If you'd like to stay here and rest before you travel to Omu or wherever you're going to go from here, just make sure, and I stress this is important, it will last for 3 days.
Hey, wasn't that a floating heart thing in midair? If we all could fly, we could get there.
Yeah, I was going to tell Ashura the symbols that we see carved in the frescoes and whatnot. We've actually seen that place. What is that place?
Oh, you're talking about yes, that is the heart of Ubtao. And this is a massive chunk of earth and rock that was torn from the earth drifts over the swampy forests, and it hovers about 500 feet over the ground. That is why we, the Aarakocra, have Kir Sabal 500 feet over the ground as well, because this is, what we worship. And it has a petrified tree that towers over the stone, with its stone roots protruding from the bottom. And this is a place of worship for us. And they sometimes make pilgrimages over that way to show the young Aarakocra and bring them into adult status and stuff like that. And there's a cave mouth that he talks about the cave mouth and where they walk into the cave and perform their rituals there and welcome the Aarakocra to adulthood, both male and female at the same age. Yep.
Do you all Based on the information you provided about the problem you're having with gargoyles, do y'all do flight patrols around the area?
We do. We have our scouts that, of course, you've probably seen them, but yeah, they have scouts, and he also says that his daughters are pretty decent fighters and they can hold their own, and they've actually had to help fend off the gargoyles. But a lot of the monks in the temple, they help as well. But most of the Aarakocra, they're peaceful. They're not fighters. But thankfully that they do have the monastery. But they would hardly ever attack, as Ashara explains to you, Shen. But over the last, couple of months, that's when these gargoyles have actually attacked a little bit more.
Is there anything we could do to help you with that problem?
Well, I mean, I don't think that they have a lair or anything. They just my scouts have told me they just spring out from the rocks of the cliffs without any warning at all. It's like they just meld right into the stone. But we've done nothing to them. But it just seems with this death curse, they've attacked us several times. Of course, more than usual. Sometimes we will have attacks, but like I said, just a little more than usual as of late. Maybe it has something to do with the Nasi Waste that's to the south. I don't know. There was that part of the jungle was ravaged by a blight many, many years ago. The jungle never recovered. All of the plants are sickly. They're all poisonous. And it's basically just a barren wasteland now. And it's a barren wasteland that is in this beautiful jungle that we live in. We know that there was a stone fortress that was there at one time, but we don't know if that has anything. I forbid the Aarakocra to go into the sea waste. But there are lots of undead there.
Guys, given that they're willing to give us the ability to fly and how much time that's going to save us, do you guys want to take a day or two and try to help them with this gargoyle problem and checking out this wasteland?
Well, they did say the gargoyles don't have any lair, but we could check it out. How big is this wasteland? Sounds like it's pretty big.
He points to you guys have a map. You pull it out, and he asks to point. But yeah, you can see the sea waste right to the south. And like you said, there was a fort, and this fort was actually on the back of a massive turtle that would kind of roam around the jungle in that area of the jungle. But of course, the turtle has died because of the blight that was actually ravaged the sea waste, which was part of the jungle at one time. But that the shell of the turtle's still there, and the ruined castle is still on the back of that turtle. So he doesn't know if there's anything that has to do with that, because if he sent scouts to scout that area and to check it out and to report back to him of any kind of happenings. And the scouts said that there were massive amounts of undead. But the undead, they can't climb the cliffs, so the Aarakocra are safe. But in fact he recommends that you guys not even go, because they've never had a problem with the sea waste before. Well, the undead from that part of the jungle. But like I said, he's Ashara said that this part of the jungle never was able to recover and flourish again like the rest of the jungle, as you can see that surrounds the waste.
So, guys, we probably want to spend the night here at least, and then we could, after that, we could either let her do this ritual and fly over to check out the Hard, since this seems like a good opportunity to do that, or we could delay doing that and go check out this Needles, Bones, and Wreck of the Narwhal first, and then come back here.
Oh, the Needles, Bones? That is an interesting place, my friend. It's a wide sinkhole that actually looks like it is yawning before you. And the earth, there must have been a great battle there at one point, because the earth around this massive sinkhole is littered with goblin bones. And this hole in the ground, the opening is 90 feet across, and it's massive. And there are stone walls that were built around this. And we've actually sent scouts, and about 30 feet down, there is, in this sinkhole, it's filled with this murky green smelly water. And on some days, if the winds are right, we can actually catch a scent in the air of this mucky green water. But there are literally hundreds and hundreds of these giant frogs that hop down and climb out of that hole. And there's all kinds of large lily pads that they jump onto. But the most interesting thing that is inside of this sinkhole that kind of rises above this green murky water is a massive rib cage and these bones of wings of probably a dragon. So possibly the dragon was fighting goblins, or the goblins attacked maybe the dragon. Maybe this was its lair. But there's also all kinds of vines and moss and lichen that hang, so it's hard for us to fly in there. But we were able to find out a little bit of information about this Needle's Bones, as it's called. But it doesn't look like the water would be very deep. I mean, if the bones of this dragon skeleton are protruding out of it, it can't be that deep.
What do you think, guys?
Do the scouts go to the ocean? Do they fly out towards the ocean?
We don't usually travel that far out. We usually just stay within about a day's travel or so of Kir Sabal. Why do you ask?
I was wondering if you'd seen any pirate activity over around Refuge Bay.
That's, I believe, Refuge Bay is to the east of us, and he looks, yes, there it is on the map. Well, sometimes we have been known to do some trade in the past, but the last time that I was there were just a couple of ships that were traders. But as for pirates, I do not know anything about the pirates. But I do know that the waters are dangerous there in Refuge Bay, because there are all kinds of these swimming lizards and also lots of giant sharks. And there's also possibly, and this is just rumor, and a lot of the sailors that were on these ships, there's a story of this sea hag that not only dwells the lands, but also comes from the sea as well, and can turn into a giant and destroy ships with one swift blow. But of course, we don't believe in that hocus pocus. Usually that's stuff that keeps the humanoids, and no offense to you, usually you humans like to believe those types of stories, but we've never seen it, but it's just hearsay. I'm changing this adventure up all over the place, guys. We're just having fun with this. This is all like impromptu.
Is that within your range of scout?
Where?
This place here marked on the map as the wreck of the Norwal.
The wreck of the Narwhal? Man, let's see if I can. He turns to his daughters because, have you ever heard of this wreck of the Narwhal? And both Christy O'Connor and Summer McMack, his daughters, the princesses of Kir Sabal, no, they have no clue what the wreck of Narwhal is when you point it on the map. I can give you a little bit more of your map. That he says, Summer, darling, can you go get me my map of the island? And she goes to the noble quarters, gets the map, comes back a couple minutes later, and he actually uncovers a little bit more for you guys over towards where the Sky Lizard Mountains are. So he uncovers another portion of the jungle that survived this blight. And he talks about the Yuan-ti, that in this area of Hisari, this is where the Yuan-ti came from when they actually attacked Omu. But supposedly this is now just a ruined Yuan-ti city that just stands in the jungle, just acquiring more vines and foliage. But he's never sent scouts down that far. But that's where basically the Yuan-ti came from when they invaded Omu. For the reason for invading Omu, he has no clue. Maybe it has something to do with, and he says maybe it has something to do with Hisari going into ruin. Boy, you guys are getting a lot of this uncovered, huh? You got a little bit more to go.
Oh yeah. So what do you guys think? You think these places to the northeast are worth checking out, or do we just want to go straight to the heart of Ubtao and then start heading back north from there?
If the heart of Uptow is just a place where they do their ritual transition to adulthood, I don't know that there would be anything of interest for us there unless we want to go and ransack a potentially religious place to the Arakocra.
Sounds sexy.
So we could like go northeast to check out these places and then head northwest to check out the other places. And if we could fly, we could probably do that pretty quick.
One of the monks, and he says, he also goes, and Ashar also goes into telling you that he actually just sent a pilgrimage to the heart of Uptao a couple of days back, and they're traveling there to bring about a dozen Arakocra into adulthood. And it's this pilgrimage is led by one of his monks as well from the monastery. So if you go there, you could run into Arakocra. That pilgrimage of Arakocra. But Ashara does tell you that you're more than welcome to, if you stay, just do a couple of hours of work. That's all we ask. Maybe if you want to help fix some of the bridges or the ramparts that are coming up to our village, we open our arms and welcome everyone. And we also all eat dinner in the monastery. Everyone at one time. We don't have a lot of resources, but we do lead a pretty healthy life. So you're welcome to join us if you would like to. And whenever you're ready for that ritual, I'm more than willing to help you out, and we'll give you some wings. We'll give you some Red Bull. Red Bull will give you some wings for 3 days.
Nice.
Well, Shen, I think your friend over there would like you to stay at least one night.
I'm down to stay a night.
All right, very good. So he asked his princess daughters, Christy O'Connor and Summer McMack, to show you guys your rooms, and you'll be living in the very nice guest quarters in the noble house, which is the same living quarters as where his princesses are. You guys better don't be naughty. Huh? But he also offers you, as you guys, one more thing. It seems like I know when my daughters have taken to someone. I will tell you this. If you help get rid of those Yuan-ti, as you said, you are going to look for this death curse for this soulmonger. If you guys take care of the Yuan-ti, I will offer my daughters to you as wives. And he looks towards.
What do I get?
You've got your broomstick. You don't need anything else, he says. I'm sorry.
I need someone to use it on.
Oh, gosh. So, yes, Ashara offers his daughters to both Shen and Darganoth. And he says he has a young son of 6 years old that he would be willing to offer you, Vey.
All right. He doesn't play much, I guess.
But you will not have him until he becomes of age and goes through the ritual that we have to become an adult.
Ugh, what fun is that?
Only about 12 more years. as in human years. So he's 6 years old. He's just a child, and you may have him when he becomes of age of 18.
Okay, I'll be back.
Okay, I'll be back.
Maybe, unless I found a better broom.
Oh gosh. Unbelievable. All right, so you guys have dinner, drinks, all that other good stuff, and you guys are now staying here at Kir Sabal. So let's go ahead and let's end the game here for tonight. We've got about 19 minutes or so. We can go ahead. You guys can go ahead and talk about where you guys want to go, because there's quite a few locations around. I mean, you guys have Ishao, you have Refuge Bay, you have Asari, you have, the Nasi Waste, even though Ashar really doesn't recommend you guys going there because of the legions and hordes of undead. You have Needle's Bones, you have Wreck of the Narwhal, you have Ata Mahaha. I mean, you have the River Orlung where you guys are traveling. You have, and do you want to take this ritual? I mean, Darganoth did, pull the old magician trick and pull the pedal from behind. Was it Summer McMax here, or was it Christy O'Connor's? Darganoth. He might be AFK.
Christy.
All right, so so you guys can have this ritual done whenever you guys need it. This Dance of the Seven Winds ritual. It'll give you wings for 3 full days. So do you want to travel by air, or do you want to travel by magic boat? I mean, you have so many choices ahead of you. Do you want to head to Omu? Do you want to head back to? Do you just want to fly straight to Port Nyan Zaru? That choice is up to you guys. You guys have many paths ahead of you. So what do you guys think? What do you think you guys want to do? As you guys are now in your quarters. Christy and Summer have shown you and have taken you to your quarters and stuff. So what do you guys think? We'll talk about this for a couple of minutes so I can get some ideas on what you guys want to do.
I'd like to check out Needle's Bones.
Kind of a meta thing, but how many hexes per day would we be able to cover flying?
I would say you'd be able to, same as a boat, 4 hexes a day, but you could also rush it too. So you could travel 8 hexes a day if you want to take the chance of taking levels of exhaustion with a DC 10 Constitution check. So you could fly 4 squares a day. I'll give you 4 squares a day like you would be on water, 4 squares a day. Instead of 2, you'll travel twice as much. Because flying will be 50 feet. And in fact, I'm giving you more than 50 feet. So
and this kind of changes it to where it really opens up our options now, where we could even make Omu if we wanted to.
Yeah, especially now that, especially Zalcor, she gave you the exact location, and she gave you the entrance to the secret underground labyrinth of Rosny. And of course, he's in cahoots with this, soulmonger, as you guys have found out.
If we flew fast for 3 days, we could get to Omu if we decided to go that route. Or we could just use this flying to more speedily check out some of these other areas first.
What's everybody else think? Nothray, Vey, 010? Zero says he just wants to fly like Peter Pan. That's all he wants to do.
I want to assist the group in accomplishing their goals.
You know what? And I would imagine if Zero could speak, he would probably also talk about Vorn to Ashara, and he says that he will perform the ritual on Vorn as well. So Vorn will be able to fly for 3 days also. I think that would be pretty cool.
Air?
I will explode you. Zero Sense is awesome. if you're flying like Peter Pan, don't they have their arms out, kind of rocking back and forth? And I think weren't they holding hands too? So you guys would like have to hold hands and sing Kumbaya and all that other good stuff. So, Nothray, what do you think? Darganoth, what do you think? These guys might be AFK. Or mute buttons or something like that, because I can't hear them. I can see the light coming on.
They're talking, but they're muted.
Yeah, I think they are muted.
Oh my.
My bad.
Welcome back. What do you think, Darganoth?
I mean, I was kind of like feeling compelled to help them out just because as soon as they offered to give us the ability to fly, I kind of wanted to go down and help. Because I feel like I don't know. My instinct kicked in and I heard Stone Castle and I'm like gargoyles in a stone castle. Maybe there's a connection.
Yeah, I was thinking kind of the same thing too. Hopefully they'll attack while we're spending the night and we can find out some clues.
Is that a hint, Shen, that you're wanting to see some combat pretty soon?
I would like to do battle with some gargoyles.
Well, I can make that happen if your wish is my demand. Your wish is my command. So here's how we're going to end the game. As you guys are fixing to turn in for the night, all of a sudden you hear shrieks of terror as you hear stone grinding on stone. And as the princesses burst into your chamber, Christy O'Connor and Summer McMack, the princesses of Ashara, they are screaming, "We need your help. Please, Darganoth, Shen of the Fin, help us. We're being attacked by gargoyles." So as we...
Oh, good. It only needs those two. I'll just keep sleeping.
So as we start next session, you guys are being attacked by gargoyles here at Kir Sabal. So your wish is my command, Shen of the Fin. I can make that happen.
Just
Thanks
be like,
going, Sean.
my lady, you don't have to come up with crazy excuses to join me in my bedchamber.
Oh, I was hoping that we would have combat, Dave.
Oh.
How do you work that into it?
Not until we're married, at least, Darganoth. Not until we're married. But just hold me. Oh, but first, kill those gargoyles. And as you guys burst out onto the scene, you see 10 gargoyles that are fighting with the Aarakocra. And that's where we'll end it for tonight.